outside somewhere.
Yeah,
we did Tenement Trail.
Yeah, we were really tired, I remember. I think we'd just come from somewhere down. We'd just come from like Bristol, and then we had to go all the way down. No. Okay,
He always does
incredibly wrong.
He says it with such confidence. No, what happened was we were doing the Inhaler tour, and unfortunately we had got ourselves a festival in Glasgow after we had played Birmingham. So we went Birmingham, Glasgow, and then Bristol, and then London, back to back.
That was not nice.
Yeah, it was worth it. The Glasgow gig was good.
Was it?
Yeah, it was in a nice church. I remember.
It was alright. It was a bit stiff.
Oh yeah, that's in Luke's. Yeah.
It was a bit robotic.
Well, I remember when we spoke that time, you mentioned the fact that you had 90 songs in the vault.
Yeah.
Then the second time it was 110, and then the third I think it was about 140. Where are we at now?
Oh mate, lockdowns happened. We got very bored, so I'd say. I'm not gonna put the 200 number out there, but maybe 180 if we're lucky.
We're getting close.
We actually spent a lot of lockdown perfecting some of the old ones, because we've spent so long with them just in the vault, and we've come quite a long way production wise in like 3 or 4 years that we've been writing together. So we just kind of wanted to update them a little bit and beef them up. The ones we've been releasing recently are actually very recent songs, but and that's been really nice, because I think you're just genuinely more excited when you've just written a song. So it's been really nice to literally have written them. Like we wrote them, it's called A001, the package that's coming out early next year, but we wrote all of them in like 3 weeks in February. And so it's so nice to just release them all fresh instead of going back. The old ones will get used for sure, but we just felt like we were so excited about this batch that we wanted to get them out.
Does the way that you frame them in your mind flip when it comes to releasing them? Like if you release a song that was written 3 years ago after one that was written 3 months ago, does it change the way they kind of sit in the chronology of your mind in any way, or do they still remain where they were when they were written?
I think the message, let me just try my phone over there. The message of them is changes. Well, it does for me. I don't know about you. The message of them changes because as we're getting older, you get more reflective of like almost being a bit naive when you were, because we've been writing songs since we were 18, 19 together. So like some of them sound really naive and like, oh, I just met a girl and all this stuff now. But
so that one, that sounds like a great one.
That's our next single. But so yeah, I think the new songs are a lot more mature in terms of not necessarily in their subject matter, just the way that we package them up. And there are a few cringy lines when we go back and listen to the old ones, but we still love them.
There's definitely a mature Apre this new phase for sure. I think from a production point of view as well, it sounds a bit more together, a bit more complete. It's like one sound as well. I think when with the older stuff, we had songs like Dream World, and then we had songs like Your Heart's Like a Jungle, which are pretty. I think they're quite different in terms of genre. They're you know, one's quite full on like rock, quite, would you say it was rocky, and then the other one's quite poppy, and I don't know, actually they sound quite similar, but I
wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, they do.
well but yeah, it's just more mature.
It's interesting because these two new recent ones, All Mine and You, you've said that You is about kind of learning to live without the person who's most important to you in your life, and yet All Mine, with the relationship that it's articulating, it almost feels like it's setting the stage for that in a certain way. It's kind of at the fringes of a breakdown of a relationship. What do you see the connection of those two songs being from both a narrative and sonic point of view?
I think what's interesting about those two songs is in this 3 week period that we ended up writing, I was going through a breakup and you were having some stuff going on as well. So, and during those 3 weeks that happened. So like, it was almost like we were capturing every emotion that we were feeling in those strange times in these songs. And it was a bit like looking back over your relationship, and All Mine's just like a celebration of like that first initial feeling that you get when you first meet someone and you first get on with someone. And then You is, I guess, us coming to terms with the fact that, yeah, that person is amazing, but they're not ours anymore.
How does the role that creativity and making music play in your life change when you leave a relationship like that?
It's like therapy. It genuinely is. Like when you get all your feelings out, like, because songwriting, I think, is such a personal affair that it's so weird, because it's so, when it's just us two in a room, it feels so like trusting. We have to trust each other. We have to really listen, and then we release it to the world, and it's really, really odd. Like releasing You was strange, because that is a really, I mean, it's also packaged in a really weirdly happy song, but the lyrics, you know, what's really deep.
You know what's banging is being able to slag someone off in a song and sing it to a load of people live. That is brilliant. You know, if you think someone's a dick, you can. So many people do it as well. That Macy Peters, she's got a tune.
Her whole career.
Her whole thing's just slagging off some bloke. Imagine if you.
It's like the Taylor Swift thing, isn't it?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Taylor Swift.
So I think it's, you know, that's proper therapy. So standing up,
we're the new like, Taylor Swift.
You know what I mean?
Did you get the opportunity to do that last night?
There was annoyingly no one present.
No, yeah, there was not
that there was no one in the audience, but like, yeah, there was no one that would.
But it's a good release. I think last night was a good release of like, oh, thank fuck, you know, we're back. And it was dark. Like lockdown was dark. We had big fallouts with like labels, and we went out of relationships, and we didn't do a gig for 20 months. So I think last night was just like oh, thank fuck, you know, we're back where we want to be.
And playing all the new songs and everyone really seeming to love them was reassuring.
That You song went down.
Yeah,
well, all mine went down as well, you know, and I actually hate that song.
He doesn't.
I liked it last night, but I don't know, it's weird.
You just find it hard to sing though.
It's hard to sing, yeah.
Did last year, it's interesting what you're saying, you know, last year about the way that you kind of tied up a few relationships. Did it almost feel like wiping the slate clean, and was it almost like a reset for you on a creative level as a group?
I think A001, this new phase, is completely that. Like we got to a point, we had a slightly dodgy relationship with our label. I won't go into it too much because it's incredibly boring. But, and they took it in a direction which I don't think we ever would have if they weren't present. So them leaving, us having a big change in terms of relationships, and also just lockdown in general being a proper like, okay, we need to get our shit together kind of vibe. And on top of that, like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I was 22, 23 when the lockdown started, and now I'm 24. And I actually think that's a really big jump in terms of like figuring out what you want to do and actually being more confident in what you want to do. And I think now I have so much confidence in what we're doing because we love it. And I think that's all that matters. Like if other people like it, that's an amazing bonus, but we love it. And that's all that matters.
Because there's stuff we did before, and I go back through the archive of our stuff, and I'm literally like, oh my God, why did we put that? You know what I mean? I'm actually like, no wonder no one liked it.
It's because someone in a big office told us to.
Because, yeah, it's like, so yeah, this is definitely, that was a reset period. I think if there's anything positive that COVID's done, which is not a lot because it's been a disaster, is to allow people to restart and go again, and also appreciate all of the things that we are able to do. I think, you know, like giving someone a hug. Oh, a hug.
I hugged a lot of fans last night, and every time I was doing it, I was like, I fucking hope you don't have COVID.
It's really interesting.
Fucking lovely hug.
Kind of. It's really interesting, that relationship that you had with your label and the way that kind of changed over the last year, and now you're coming back to doing what feels right. How does your relationship to your instincts change throughout that process?
I think when we weren't reliant on them, but when your songs have to go through 60 people in a big shiny office and they all have an opinion, you do feel like you're not just writing for yourself, which I think is a really dangerous place to be in. Whereas now there's us, and then our manager will probably have an opinion which we'll choose to ignore. But it's just us, and we can release whatever we like. And And we're with an amazing new label now, which really appreciate us and let us do everything, like, because we've done all the visuals and all the videos and everything for this release, and it's been so refreshing and nice.
Also, if you put something out that is just, that's completely you know, like the mix, the production, everything, it's just a lot more rewarding. It's probably like, no, actually, I was gonna choose a really bad
analogy.
Yeah.
Is the catharsis greater now?
Well,
Yeah.
that's a big word.
I think so.
What does that mean?
It means, oh no, you're testing me now. It doesn't, what?
Like the emotional release that you get from it.
Yeah. I think, yeah, definitely. I get more
proud.
nervous about every release. That's
But you're
for sure.
proud.
Yeah, but
It's
I'm more proud than ever.
It's like, oh shit.
I care more.
If someone's on the radio 1, if someone's on Radio 1, and you've mixed it in your bedroom and it's on Radio 1, it's like, oh, sick, you know. Like, oh, nice. I sang that in the cupboard over there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's a lot more rewarding than some twat, like, making it sound like auto-tuned shit and then going through all these different mixes and then someone else masters it and then someone distributes it and then they upload it and then it's all like, well, you feel so far removed from it, but it's your own, it's your work, your face is on it, but you're like, you're not really, you feel very distant from it. Where now I feel like I've literally like
given birth to it.
Yeah, I've like shat out
Oh Jesus.
a song.
So is the
I can't add to that.
These two singles that you've put out that are from the mixtape, is the mixtape the album? What's the kind of difference in that titling for you?
It's difficult. It's not the debut album still.
Basically, I think we would have put the debut album out had COVID not happened. COVID obviously stalled our momentum, and I don't like the idea of putting out an album without being able to tour it, and we couldn't tour it. We needed to reset, so
I think also like A001 was literally just a moment in our lives captured that it doesn't represent the whole of Apre, but it represents that moment that we had together.
And it's good, so you may as well put it out. And
the album's a bit
the
dead.
album's what?
Like, no, not our album, as in like the album, like no one buys albums.
Oh right.
Not as in our album's shit, so we're not putting it out.
No, but I think, you know, with like some of the songs on Always in My Head, the EPs, this mixtape that's going to come out next year, combined, you know, with all the other tracks that we want to put on our debut album, like a big deluxe, like you could have an 18-track record or something, that would be sick, because there's so much stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, you did the mini album last year, and one of kind of the through lines of that was escapism, and this idea of how music can provide that for you. How have the lessons, or what lessons have you learned from that have then carried into working on this mixtape in terms of creating a body of work and creating a sound and creating a world that ties into a specific moment for you?
I think, go on.
Oh, you go on, mate.
I think the difference between
we learned.
We learned a lot from that mini album experience. What was weird about that is that it was kind of an amalgamation of songs that were all from different times, which was a little bit weird.
Very different times as well.
Yeah,
like years apart.
And we kind of molded them to try and sound like a body of work, which I think they really did, and I love that piece of work. And that's definitely a moment in the Apre catalogue. But
it's very tied together by the production.
Yeah. But I think when you hear A001, I sound like a salesman now. It genuinely feels like us at our core. I don't know how to explain it, but if I like, people ask me all the time what genre we are. I don't have a fucking clue. Like, all I'd say is just go and listen to this new set, and that is our genre. It's like a weird mix of everything.
And when we played last night, you know, we do songs like All Yours is what we wrote that when we were 18 or 19, and then we wrote when I was 25, and you were 24, and they still sit together, but there is a growth in it, and it does feel like I said earlier, like it's just a maturer, not even more polished. How would you say it was more polished? Just maturer, and just like, I don't know, just feels good. Sorry, dog's barking. Shot.
I just also think, like, I think
Fucking
we're
dog.
very different people than when we were 18, or even when we released the mini
I'm
album.
a lady.
And oh, that really tickled me.
I'm really overexcited. Oh,
We've changed a lot as people, and we've changed a lot together, as in how we are together. I think we have a better relationship than we've ever had. So, which I also think A001 is a good reason for that. Like, and it shows it basically. It's very tight. I don't mean in terms of like everything's very in time. I just mean like the sound it's not polished, but it's all very tight knit, and you can tell
Refined.
that. Yes, that's exactly the word I was looking for. Yeah.
It's interesting what you were saying about, you know, you were saying that last year you put out this album and it comes from all these different times in your life, and it manages to sit together cohesively because at the same time it's always remained you. What do you feel like are the constants throughout all of your music? What are the things that kind of tie it together and hold it as one, despite the fact that you can kind of go off and play with different genres and sounds and textures?
hooks, melodic hooks. The guitars are always very similar.
I think basically they're pop songs, but they're wrapped in this kind of wonky texture. Also, there's just a wonkiness to all of the songs. They're not straight up pop. They wouldn't be on your like Radio 1 dance banger playlist. They have a kind of off-center feel to them.
Yeah,
that I think goes throughout, and that's actually something that was one of the least thing. I don't want to go on about it, but one of the things that was the worst with our label is that they were dragging us more into this central lane, whereas we wanted to stay true to us and make it a bit weird and wonky and a bit like, because the recent songs we've released, like, they are pop songs, but they have weird sounds, and there's like a bell in the right ear in the middle of the verse or some shit. Like, I just live for that stuff. What? There is.
You live for a bell in the right
I
ear.
live for weird sounds, honestly. Mate,
Yeah,
get me
but
some weird sound effects.
That's why we work, because he likes all this like, I put like some Japanese people having lunch. He had like a sound effect.
That's in you.
Yeah, it's in you. There's like
It's a
like,
Japanese restaurant.
Yeah, in Japan.
Well, I didn't go to Japan.
No, but it's a sample.
Oh yeah, it's a sample from Japan.
So it's like he suddenly put a load of Japanese people having lunch in the back of the background of the. I cannot speak. I haven't slept. The background of the song.
The thing I really like about that is that no one will ever realize that though, except for me, and I kind of like that. It's quite selfish, I know, but
it's like I always wanted to fart and like pitch it down and then put it in, and then if you get it on the radio, it's like the joke's on you, Annie Mac.
Which may I say we have tried like twice, possibly. This conversation's really digressive. Let's bring it up.
The joke's on you, Annie Mac. Well, you just played my bow.
That'd be Clara now. Anyway, back to reality. Sorry, went down a strange tangent there.
When it comes to the sampling, you know, and you're saying that, you know, you put in a Japanese restaurant and whatever, how do you get to that point from a thought process point of view? What is it about the restaurant that is relating to what's happening in the song for you? Why does your mind go to that sound?
It's sonics though, isn't it? It's like air.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that I'm like, okay, this relates to the song in some way. It's just that I'll be flicking through some sample pack and I'm just obsessed with textures, and there'll be a weird texture that just adds something that I've never heard to a song before, like the Japanese restaurant. And I'll just be like, that's amazing. I love it.
This air, I always think it's like air. It's like hiss. Lots of people add hiss to their records because it just adds this like other
realness,
dimension, and it just feels a bit, I don't know, it just adds this air.
It's almost come back to the balance of the song as well, in the way that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you almost just feel like you need something else in there to even it out, and then it's just a case of trying to find something that's interesting?
Definitely. I think if it's just vocals, guitar, bass, drums, I get bored very easily, I have to say. Like, I need something else in there that's a bit weird.
Well, you've got your meat, you got your carrots. It's like a roast dinner, and then you need like a bit of mustard or a bit of gravy or a bit of salt and pepper to really just take it over across the finish line. I think
And
that's what a good
Japanese restaurant is.
That's what a good producer would do, though, right? If we were idiots and we couldn't produce music, we would go in and someone would. You need that person to be like, this needs a Japanese person having lunch, like every fucking song.
How dramatically can those like extra?
I'm gonna get an Australian eating fish and chips next.
How dramatically can adding those little extra bits in though change your perspective on the rest of the song?
Oh, ridiculously! Like the next song we're releasing, actually, I'm not going to say the name yet, but it's got a lot of space in it, but we filled it with really weird sounds that are like in the hook, especially. It's got like weird cowbells that are like pan completely left, and then yeah, I don't know. It takes it to a new level of wonkiness that I really like, and I think that's a big part of the Apre world, is these kind of weird textures and weird sound effects. They've been present throughout all of our music. I think it's just we've never realized that was possibly the source on top that was making them Apre, and now we do. So I've put in tons of ridiculous sound effects to this record. No, I haven't really. It's not all Japanese restaurants, I promise. We
touched upon it a little bit earlier on too, but the story that you comes from is obviously quite an emotionally raw place. And when you're in a band now, you're kind of forced to market yourself in this way, and stories like meeting at the chess club very much become folded into the band's narrative. How does it feel when you almost have to kind of utilize and kind of weaponize that pain in a promotional sense to use for the song? How do you kind of cope with having to use that to promote the music? Is there ever a kind of tension there?
It's only awkward if someone, like, if you've written a song about someone and then they've read like the write-up or whatever, and they're like, oh, why is this song called I Don't Love You?
Which is a song on A001.
So, I mean, it's like,
quite obvious.
Yeah, I think it's all weird, really. Like, you're always wearing your heart on your sleeve a bit with doing this job. Just like doing a gig, like you're putting yourself out there, and you need to be vulnerable to make people, well, firstly to like make what you put across genuine and real, because it is for a start, but also people aren't gonna give a shit or invest in it if it doesn't feel like it's from a genuine place. So you have to just do that.
I think what also helps is that we wrap it in very happy music most of the time.
Yeah, I think I've got like sometimes a really negative outlook on the world. I think loads of things just irritate me so much. But the things I love, but I just don't love that much stuff. So lyrically, I can often be quite like, oh, fuck, yeah, everything's shit. But then I really like pop music, so then we'll wrap it in very like, ooh, let's go. Like music, but then the lyrics are like, oh, you fucking what? And then it's, woo, that's you know what I mean? I like that, because it's like...
That should be our bio.
The pessimistic side of you comes across in the lyrics, but the optimistic side to you comes across in the music.
Yeah, nice.
Basically, we're depressed, but we like to dance.
Yeah.
No, not really. Don't worry.
I said it before to someone about, like, for example, Without Your Love, very upbeat, happy music, but shitty lyric, very miserable. That's basically about getting divorced. And I like that kind of juxtaposition, that's a big word, of how we as people are going through shit all the time, but we wrap it up in like positivity. And it's like, social media, like, people like feel like shit, and then they're like going to post a picture of them, and then they're like out with the girls, and like everything's great, and they've got a salad, but really like they want to kill themselves. Do you know what I mean? And it's just fake. Everything's very sorry, that was a bit dark. Maybe
it must mean a bad salad. Why? Why do they want to kill themselves?
No, that was a bit much. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's all fake. Everyone's suffering in some way. Everyone's going through shit, and like this world is online, especially, is made out to seem that everyone's got their shit together, everything's great, and I just like that. That's a bit like what we're doing with the music. Is you can clearly tell by the lyrics it's not a positive thing, but then we're like hiding it in happy music. That was never a conscious thing, but I just thought about that like a few years ago, and then it kind of made a bit more sense to me.
I mean, if the music is very much coming from the positive side of you and the lyrics are very much coming from the negative side of you, with what you're doing with these new shows, you know, where you're kind of taking the stage production up a level, which side of you is that pulling from more?
I think that's pulling from the dancey side of us more, the happy side.
Yeah. The live is definitely like banter. It's all meant, you know. Oh,
they want it to be a party when people come. Really.
Celebration,
nice.
yeah.
We did I Know I Find It last night. I don't know if you know that song, but that's
that
like
special.
A bit of a down moment, bit of a thoughtful moment, and I actually think that was probably my favorite part of the whole set. Just to bring it down, and the rest of the song, the rest of the set is just like full fucking power, and it's like it's great. You know, people like it, but it is nice to have a moment of just reflecting, just especially after what everyone's been through. It was nice to just have it like that. I loved it. I loved it in that song.
Which song in the set did you feel most connected to the audience when you performed last night?
Hearts Like a Jungle popped off.
Hearts Like a Jungle really popped off. I think honestly for me it was we did Without Your Love first, which we don't usually do, and that was like relief, because I feel like in my head this gig has been building up for a long time, because it's been 20 months.
There's a fair bit of pressure on this gig, I think.
Yeah, it was like,
are you doing 3 of them as well? Are you doing one every month?
But not doing one next one, we're doing one in December.
Yeah.
One in December as well.
Yeah, the same place.
So yeah, there was a fair amount of pressure. It was like, okay, can we still do this? And then we walked out and smacked into Without Your Love, and they were singing along from the off. So that was just like a moment. I just felt like a sigh of relief come out of me as soon as that happened. But yeah, Hearts Like a Jungle, everyone really loved, and I know I find it felt really special. I don't know why. I think it's just because it has been such a ridiculous 20 months. So I think everyone being in a room and some emotional string music, it got me.
It's good. It's one of those sets that's like, it's so full on, I don't really enjoy it until I've done it, and then I'm like, oh, that was really good. Because it's a lot.
Could that also be applied to the music making process? Do you find you enjoy it more upon reflection rather than when you're in the midst of it?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends on the song, because some songs have come so quickly and they're so fun. Like, you don't even think about it while you're doing it. Like, All Yours was a bit like that. And we've been lucky to have quite a few more. They'll just fall out the sky and they'll be done in a day, including all the production. Some songs, on the other hand, are like a really fucking annoying child that won't go away, but you know you have to look after it and tend to it because there's something in there that's good. And those ones I sometimes feel like I want to forget about, but then when I listen back, maybe after 6 months or something, I'll be like, wow, okay, that's it. Your Heart's Like a Jungle is a great example. I really, really didn't like that song for a long, long time. They all had to persuade me to put it out because it had just been hanging around for so long, and it never really got to a place where I felt like I was completely happy with it. And now when I play it live, it's probably one of my favorite moments in the set. So I think years on in my old age, and having a bit of time to reflect is a good thing for the songs.
How did you persuade him to put it out, Charlie? What was your key argument?
£3,000. No,
I got a powerful man in a big office to tell him to do it, because he basically the big cheese that was like heading up the project, he really liked it as well. So he was outnumbered.
Everyone wanted to release it except me.
That was definitely a good shout.
Yeah, that was a good shout. I
always liked that song. I always liked it. I like the words, because I like the lyric, "When you cry, you're pretty," because it's like it sounds a bit messed up, but then it's like, "And I want to rescue you. Your heart's like a jungle." I like that. I think that's good words.
That is good words. It's like Shakespeare.
Thank you.
You spoke earlier on, it might have actually been before we started recording.
Shakespeare! He hasn't slept, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
You spoke earlier on before we started recording about how, you know, when you got signed, there could have been the temptation to get a big, you know, kind of fancy studio, but you decided to keep it in the space that you'd always created from. what else have you done throughout your kind of path as a band to keep it rooted and keep it grounded and keep it true to you?
I think generally not letting anyone else. Well, we have let other people get involved, but we very quickly retracted back to the two of us every single time. We've tried another producer, we've tried different mixers, and eventually we just come back to us every single time. And because it's the only thing, like, yes, technically they make it sound more perfect and more good, and on the radio people would be like, okay, this sounds more like a radio friendly song, but
it's more radio.
But that's not us. It's not us at the end of the day. And we've got to a point now where we've learnt to do everything to a satisfactory level that we like. Like, Charlie's mixed the whole of this record. I personally, I'm biased, but I think it's better than any professional mixer that's been doing it for 20 years could do it, because he knows what should be where.
Thank you.
Well, I guess you have an understanding of the songs that they possibly can.
Yeah, it's a weird one, like the mixing thing. People always go on about like, oh, you shouldn't mix your own stuff, but it's like, but if you've produced it and you want the drums to be loud, why wouldn't you just then turn them up? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. I think it's
also maybe more just a case that it's a bit of a dark art, and it's very hard to get to a point where you're able to mix it to the same degree as someone like that, and it just takes a lot of work, which is maybe why people say that too. It's
definitely like, it's a science, really. You know, it's all about frequencies and where everything's sitting, and you know. But if you can master it yourself, I think you're in a better place. Because also, I like when I listen to it and I'm like, oh, I don't really like how that sounds. I like that I can't blame it on anyone else apart from myself. That's quite nice, because I quite like myself, so I'm not as pissed off as if some like twat called Terry like did a bad job. I'm listening to it on the radio or something like that. Shit.
Also, just from a convenience point of view, like bless you. Just from a convenience point of view, if like, say if I'm like, oh my, I want my guitar to be a bit louder, I don't have to go through about 20 emails to find someone who can eventually turn it up in 4 weeks. Like, I just have to text him.
As Liam Gallagher said a really funny thing the other day. He said that recording music these days is bollocks, and that people are now being emailed the hi-hat. It's like, fucking shit, man. Email you the hi-hat. I thought it was really funny. It's true though. Like, that's bullshit. Do you know what I mean?
You said there that, you know, mixing is almost like a scientific process.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about frequencies. Which parts of the music making process feel most like that, and which parts feel most rooted in emotion? Kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum.
I mean, the song itself has to be so separate from that scientific process. Otherwise, that's why I think it's a complete killer when a label goes, okay, we need another hit on this EP or something, because then you are setting out your boundaries already, and you're setting it. It's more scientific
for failure.
Yeah, and it generally is more scientific, because you have to go, okay, we need a hook here, and then we need a hook here, because this needs to sound good on the radio. Whereas all the best songs never come like that, and I think that just destroys creativity.
Well, I've always compared it to a motive. If you plan a night out, it's always shit.
Like New Year's,
it's always shit, always. But if you go out and suddenly you're like, it's 3 a.m. naked in someone's kitchen, you don't know them, and you're off your head or whatever, and it's the best.
This last night?
No, and it's the best night. That's it, because you can't force a motive. You can't force a motive. You can't force a song. You know, you can't force anything. You have to let it be.
I want to ask about time, because that's another theme, you know, that crops up continually throughout your music. How do you feel the way that feeds into A001 is different to what you've done previously? Or how does it compare to what you've done previously in the way that you've approached that theme?
I think instead of having a running theme throughout A001, it's more that it's just literally captured a moment in time in our lives, and that is the theme. Which
in itself is looking at time, yeah.
I haven't even thought that far into it. You should do our PR. That's very good. But yeah. Oh, maybe it is all connected with time. See, yeah, this is like when we noticed about the time thing in the first place, is none of it was conscious, and then we suddenly realized that Charlie had said the 2:45 and 2:45 in 2 or 3 tracks, and it's just like, oh, okay, this is spooky. I often find that with lyrics though, is like sometimes when we're writing stuff at the time, I have no idea what we're writing about, and then you look back 3 or 4 months later and you're like, I know exactly what that's about in that moment in time, because it was almost subconsciously come out.
You would never write with themes in mind then?
No, we definitely have. It's just sometimes Charlie will be in there and a melody will come, and then a lyric will also come with that melody, and then that will stem the rest of the lyric. Will stem the rest of the lyrics from that. And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm not quite sure what this is about, but I know the general gist. And then 2 or 3 months later, I'll be like, oh shit, that's because I broke up with that person, for example, on that day, but I didn't realize I was actually doing it.
It's like, that's like Your Heart's Like a Jungle. I would have got Your Heart's Like a Jungle. I would have got that bit, and then it would have been like, oh, that's what the song's about, and that's the melody. I find it easier to find melodies with words rather than like I wouldn't like have lyrics and then try and carve the lyric round the melody. I'd just be going and
it's like Bono calls it Bongolese, doesn't he? Because he just
Klingon as well, I think is another one of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just be going oh, this is terrible, and then suddenly boom,
jackpot,
and then it's like, oh, now I know what the song's about. And you know, subconsciously, if you're going through shit, you're going to find that pretty much every single song you write in that time is going to be about the same thing, as we found. It's all, oh, I loved her. She was amazing. She loved Shakespeare.
So did you set out to capture a moment in time, or was that something that only emerged once you were relatively deep into the process?
I think it was literally the case of like, we've been writing a lot, but those 3 weeks just was like magic. I don't really know why. I think it was just, we were both a bit lost, and it was really nice to be together and to be in this safe space that we could just write these songs in. And yeah, it just happened. It was one of those, it was just one of those crazy 3 weeks where everything dropped out the sky, and we felt very lucky for it to be happening.
We were going like our lives are pretty calm, really, and I think that was the first time when I've known Jules and Jules known me in our time of knowing each other, that we both were going through genuine like, oh shit, we actually,
because we got dropped by a label the same week, may I add. it was an interesting week.
It was a bit like, oh fuck, because we've had it pretty easy, like been lucky really, and that was when the pandemic, relationship's gone, and we've been dropped. It was a bit like, oh fuck, especially as like a year before that we were like signed to a huge label and sold out Scala, so it's like, where's everything gone? So I think that's why I actually really believe that's why this record feels mature, genuine, real, and from the same place, is because I think it's the first time we've written stuff that's really come from properly like in the heart, but at that exact moment. Because often I find if you want to talk about something that's happened, it's always going to be something that's in the past, especially for a lot of what lyrics that I come up with and stuff. It's always about things that have happened, but they're not happening right at that moment, so maybe it doesn't come across as real or as genuine. But in that time, in those 3 weeks, we were going through it, so it was a complete honest release and representation of how we felt at that exact moment. Thank you very much. That was well said, isn't it?
That was beautiful. I want that when I wake up every morning.
It's recorded, mate. I've got it on logic.
A lot of this conversation that we're having, it has circulated around the last year and what you've been through and how that's fed into this upcoming project. What's something you've learned about each other in the last year that you didn't know previously?
Well, I would say that I've learned, but I've always thought he was, but I've learned how kind and generous and patient Jules is. I think his patience is immense, because I'm a nightmare sometimes, and
you're not that bad.
Very disorganized and could be lazy as fuck. So definitely that I feel lucky
to have someone that's like, that's why we work, because if there was two of me, it wouldn't work, and if there was two of him, it wouldn't work. But we're like really similar, but then also so different, and I think that's why it works.
Before we hear from Jules, why did you say you were lazy? Because as a band with 190 songs, whatever in the catalog now,
well,
that doesn't.
Songs that, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but songs have always been really easy for us.
It's not lazy as in I don't do anything. It's lazy as in there's certain things that I don't like doing. For example, I'm getting a bit more into it, but I've really struggled with social media. I don't really like it. I don't use it for my own personal life. I don't care like that someone I haven't seen for 6 years has just gone to Thailand. I don't give a shit, and no one else does. Stop posting it. Do you know what I mean? So I struggle with that, so I can be quite lazy with things like that. I'm getting better, but I just think, I don't know, I'm not, it's just shit like that. It's just social media. It's been like the bane of my life, because that's all labels talk about is fucking Instagram and TikTok.
It's very depressing when you were on a label for 2.5 years. I keep mentioning it, I'm sorry, but we're on a label for 2.5 years, and I don't think we ever really had one meeting about the music. It was always about TikTok. TikTok. Anyway, right, my turn. Nice. I just think I can trust him more than ever, genuinely, and I trust his opinion more than ever. Oh,
that's lovely.
I know, this is like a therapy session. All this,
actually,
it's relationship therapy. I mean, yeah, it's been like 4 or 5 years. Of course, we've been through a lot of shit together, and I think that's only made us closer, which is really nice. And I trust his opinion on everything, even to the point of like, if I'm going on a date with someone or something, I would trust his opinion on it, etc. Like, I don't know, like, I just feel without trying to come on to you, I feel closer to you than ever.
Yeah, I think so, when you're vulnerable and you go through shit, you realize the only person you have is the other person you're doing the project with. You know, all these things, like all these other things you have, label, live agent, whatever, you know, they're just, you know, they've got other things going on. It's not their entire priority. It's not their life. You know, this is our life. And I think going through shit makes you kind of turn to the person who is in exactly the same place, who's living the same life as you, because you're doing exactly the same things, and just go, oh shit, we better fucking respect each other and stick next to each other, because that's the only way this thing will work.
I also think we know our roles in Apre more than ever. Like, I just feel like, personally, I feel like I'm like here to create the bed for Charlie because he's a fucking amazing frontman. It's like I'm the wall behind that means that he can bounce off and go into the crowd. Like last night I was feeling that more than ever, and I love it.
I think, well,
you're his trampoline.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
I think there's maybe a better way. I don't know, if I don't want you to feel like you're like, he's like,
I like being in the background there.
He's like, well, that's why it works, because you had two people that are like, I think I should stand a bit nearer the front, and then you just go slightly behind me.
God, I couldn't give
like
a shit.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, do you know, there's stuff like that. It's a bit. I mean, when we were in a band before this, and I played drums, and I played the drums so like over the top because I wanted to be at the front, that the singer's mum really wanted to kick me out of the band.
Yeah, she held a meeting which I actually attended to kick you out of the band.
She's honestly,
it wasn't my opinion.
She is one of the most horrendous people I've ever met. Probably the most horrendous.
Do you remember her name?
She was Canadian, that's all I know.
Does that have anything to do with your hatred?
No, I don't.
Okay, right. Checking.
My cat's Canadian.
Did you go and rescue it from Canada?
No, we swam.
Wow.
But
cats don't like water. Sorry.
No, you're not a trampoline. I would say you're like.
Oh, wait, another analogy.
No, it's not an analogy. Basically, I don't know.
I thought something emotional and deep was about to come
basically, I can't be on my own. I hate being on my own. So I like having a best mate, like to like go through this experience with is like the best thing, I think, firstly. But then to have a friend that like knows
everything, like knows what the live, knows how to work all the gear, knows how to make all the tracks, makes all the visuals, you know, like does everything. He tells me what time I need to like get up, or he's gonna pick me up, because I get really nervous with gigs and stuff, and it's just like he's like
I'm a very exact person.
You're like you're not a trampoline, you are like what's a really like you're Mount Everest, and that you're the biggest mountain in the world, and you're just solid.
A lot of people die on Mount Everest.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Well, they shouldn't go up it serves them right. And you're just a huge mountain, and then occasionally I can like stand on his shoulders and go,
ski down.
Hey, look at me. And that's it. That's really long.
That was very kind. Yeah.